Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Wednesday, November 3rd. So, big couple events for the day and for the week. We got the Fed day out of the way, and yeah, we didn't really get too much too much more than wasn't in the expectations, I should say, for Powell. So they did announce tapering, $15 billion, 10 of which is Treasuries, five of which is what their agency bonds that they're doing. So that came as expected, and a couple headlines that I saw from that, and I was busy tweeting them out and listening and watching what the market's reaction was to them. But was basically that they were here to do the tapering first, and they're going to talk about the interest rates later. And there was a lot of question Q&A in the press conference, which is normal, where they were talking about inflation and what they believe inflation and whether they're ahead of inflation, or whether they've got it under control, or if they need to be doing anything. And they kind of stuck to the transitory comments of saying that this is going to be temporary. A lot of this is because of bottlenecks, which they anticipate to go on, the supply bottlenecks to go on for a little while longer into 2022. So they're not really looking to they're not blinking in terms of what they've been talking about basically all year long. And they said that we're not at peak employment. They think that we could reach peak employment next year. So I try to listen to these things and just look for, or understand if they're changing their guidance. But it sounds like they're not, and they're continuing to kind of be really patient. So that's what we've been hearing from the Fed, now for a while. So it's almost like watching a trend, right? And the trend is your friend until it's not. And it sounds like there's no change in trend in terms of what the Fed is saying. So will we get a new Fed governor at some point? A Fed chairman, I should say. That's something that could change the trend a little bit, but we don't know that yet. So there's not much we can really do but speculate for that. So let's get into the market reaction. A lot of earnings again after the close. We're going to get a lot more earnings after the close tomorrow. So I can tell you some really whippy moves that are going on. And what I see after hours is a lot of names that have run up a lot. The expectations are awfully high. I'll give you a couple examples, right? Hubs, for example, right? This is moving up here a little bit from the lows, but it's a pretty decent move down, 776, and went all the way down to 770. Right. This is one of my favorite software plays. I do own this in the TTG Trend portfolio. You hear me talk about that a lot. But let me just bring up the numbers for you so that you could see. But it looked like their numbers were pretty darn strong, right? So again, it's about the expectations, right? Adjusted EPS 176 versus 178, which is above expectations. But again, it's a stock that's gone up a lot, right? And I was looking to possibly add at 677 this virgin point of control, but I don't think we're going to get down that far because the numbers just were not that bad. Maybe that would be what number did I say? 677. So that 677 would be basically down in here. That's a far way to fall. So possibly it finds some support, somewhere at here, maybe back to this 50-day moving average as well. Tandem, I actually bought some of these shares here in the after hours market. I was kind of making a joke. The Costco numbers, Costco, remember, reports monthly sales. Numbers were just awesome again, and they seem to do this every single month, right? They beat their expectations for numbers. I don't know how they do this, but up 17.5%. Total comp sales up 17.5%, estimated to be up 12.4%. How in the world do they continue to execute like this? It's mind-boggling. And then I just kind of think, hey, with all this going on, if people are continuing to consume, you may need more drugs for things like tandem diabetes, unfortunately. And their numbers were good too, but same thing, high expectations, kind of the theme of tonight. Expected EPS 9 cents versus a loss of 15 cents. So again, numbers beating expectations, but the street looking for more. Also, look at how much the stock has gone up this year. This is also a name in the TTG trend portfolio. This maybe I would like to see this stay above value. It's down to 124. Like I said, I bought some at 126 here, so we'll see how that happens. Roku's another one. Roku, the numbers, you can see it coming off the lows, but another decent move down. And some of their numbers were much better than expected, but I think their revenue was kind of light for Roku, just to kind of go through a couple of these names, because it is interesting, and we find a lot of our opportunities for trading after some of these names report. Where did I have this number? But third play revenue misses, some things like that. So some good numbers, some not great numbers. I don't own anything in this Roku. If it stands here and if it breaks 300, right, you really got a breakdown in this stock. So this stock has not been acting well since the last time it reported earnings. It fell, and really has been again this year an underperformer. Last year's, I know people always like to say, oh well, it's up 3,000% over the last 3 years, but we're talking about this year, right? What has Roku done this year? And not much. Fastly's another one that was kind of, I didn't trade this one. I talked about maybe a call spread to do, but this has been a name that does very, very poorly historically on earnings, except for one quarter that it's had. And I think the expectations were really low for Fastly, given that they've just done this the last quarter. Look at this. This is really awful, except for this one quarter in here. So the expectations were low. They went all the way up to 64 here, and they're down $10 from there. So their numbers, they were okay. It looked like, right? Again, I'm being I'm judgmental with this stuff. Some people maybe look at it and say, "Oh, their numbers were great," but their guidance was a little bit low. Right, so if you look at the, where did I see their guidance? Somewhere in here, like, adjusted loss 16 to 19 cents for the fourth quarter. Full year revenue, sees full year revenue 347 to 350. It's kind of right in line with expectations. So anyway, I don't normally talk that much about earnings, but there's a lot of them. Qualcomm, we really haven't heard from this company too much, right? And you can see they took out 3 VPOCs. There's another one up here at 149. So again, a lot of these names, right? These virgin point of controls are overhead supply, right? It's where a lot of buyers and sellers have previously met up before, but we haven't revisited. And that's a story. So we'll kind of get to a couple themes of the day. I didn't go over any of the performance. Just kind of been all over the place today. But so where did things settle after the Fed date? Well, IWM continued to move higher. IWM was up 1.8%. I think at one point it was up like about 2.2%. So it continues to break higher. You could see this push, right on the open. It kind of gave some back here around 11 to 12. And then, right around that Fed announcement, you got another big move higher. So, I've talked about this before. Someone mentioned to me because, I try to prepare traders for the day when we have a Fed day. And usually, but it hasn't been this way the last couple Fed meetings, is that you get this whippy price action, right? You get an initial reaction, then it kind of settles in, and then you kind of wait for more information during the Q&A. And sometimes when you get that more information, the market does something different. Well, we didn't really get much deviation from the information, right? There wasn't something that came out that was startling. So the market just continued to go in its path, right? So IWM, so where is this going to, right? I think that's what everybody is looking at, right? So what we kind of look for after we break out of value, and now that we're kind of breaking out of this level, we are at R1, which is an extension away from the November value area. And if we can get above 239, then the next extension up is 256, right? Again, which is based off of statistics off of the value area. The weekly chart, this looks like a really nice looking move higher for the small cap. So this is now set in motion, and I would stick with the trend. That's kind of what I've been trying to do. If you look at how I've been trading this, I trade this with index swaps. Sorry, not index swaps. Thinking of my old career when I was on Delta One trading, not a swap, but a spread, right? So I put this trade on, I think, on Monday. Right, just saying that I have to get something in place for a breakout in the Russell in case it does materialize. I don't want to have no exposure to this. So I put on a call spread, which is RUT is the index for IWM. Right, so I bought the November 5th 2365, 2375 call spread, and I took that off today because it does expire this week. I also didn't want to hold this going into the Fed meeting because you just don't know what's going to happen there. And I took this off for $6, paid 360, and then I kind of waited a bit to put that on. I said I was going to roll it, and I put this back on here. All right, so went out, gave it more time. Now I'm in the 24, 15, 20, 20. So rolling, right? Keeping some exposure, locking in some profits, but having some skin in the game. And that's how I'm playing IWM. And again, like this is like the right way for me to play this, right? Because I've been talking about this the last couple of days. We're seeing a lot of moves from names that have been underperformers and are now really bouncing pretty decently, from the lows. But it's tough for someone like myself, who's my system is based on trend following, right? So a lot of these names are way below the 200-day moving average. A lot of these names that are rallying are way below the 50-day moving average, way below the 200-day moving average. So it's a bit of a reversion to the mean that we're seeing, which is not really my type of trading. I do try to participate, but a lot of the names I don't have a lot of conviction in. So I'll take shots at certain things like an LAZR, which we saw calls in. But it's a little bit harder for me, for my system. So I would rather I play it a little bit more on the index side, because that is just an easier trend following way to that you've got a signal and you're playing a signal. And I think a lot of these names that we're seeing that are rallying from the lows, they're not going to be easy trades. You're going to have the timing on these trades is going to have to be very good, and you're going to have to take them off at overhead supply. Right? I'll give you an example. A couple of people were talking about this name earlier, and I've got a lot of examples like this. But you take a name like Nano Imaging, right? Well, now this could continue higher, definitely, right? But notice where it stopped. Right, it stopped at a previous area of supply, right? So this is at 27.85. Now it clipped this thing perfectly. Can it get over it? It can, and we've seen that in a bunch of different names, right? Plug, which was a name that I traded last week, right? But I kind of missed the last leg higher there. But you could see this name went up to the VPOC. And it had some real power to it. It had some volume to it. So names can get over this, right? Another one is TDOC, right, that I had a question about, right up to the VPOC, right? Again, below the 200-day moving average. So the name's in a downtrend. It's bouncing. So again, a little bit, I think, harder of a trade because is it going to be able to get over this virgin point of control? I don't know. I would be taking some profits, right? One area that I have played that's in a downtrend is biotech. Right, and biotech has made this nice move. Now, I said, if you've been listening to my videos, I said I would take this trade off once it hit the 200-day moving average. It's got a lot of strength to it, so it'll be something that I'll be watching in the coming days. I did take this trade off. Right, this is a really nice trade. Right, so these are January 134 calls, and I'll kind of look to possibly re-add this thing. Kind of roll it. I decided not to. for the day, but took this thing off. January 134 calls, 680 paid 335. So yeah, that trade worked out pretty nice. A couple other things that I played for the day. I kept on my last piece of AMD. We got a nice move here in AMD. Broke value. Stopped there yesterday, but opened right on the top of value. That was enough for me to give it a try. I'm also watching. I put a small trade on in Netflix, which I like what Netflix is doing. I've mentioned since this Netflix changed its personality and broke out above 556. It is just continuing to trend. It is a bit extended here, but that's what we're having to deal with right now. Is there's a lot of names that are extended. So that kind of brings me to what some of the things that I posted on Twitter earlier. I said, hey, I think this market is a little bit extended. I don't like to take a lot of risk into a Fed meeting, but they're very dovish. We are now getting really overbought in the RSI. It's a 73. So how much longer does this go on for? Well, the next extension away from we don't have another extension until 48.18, which is a decent clip up there. One of the things that I put out on Twitter was, hey, we have not had a check back to the top of value yet this month. Now, that could happen at some point this month. Keep in mind, it's only November 3rd. And I put the video too from yesterday. So, I'm kind of going to stick to this a little bit and just say I'm going to participate in this market, but I want to do so on a more limited basis a bit in terms of my risk. I just think that the risk to reward isn't. I think to me, it's a little bit more risk than reward is what I'm looking at here. But there's no sell signal, right? We are continuing to trend. That's why I have the 5-period moving average on my chart, right? That tells you what the trend is, right? Notice what happened the last time that we were trending pretty decently, which was in August. And we got right till about same time of the month, August 2nd, 3rd. And then again, instead of anticipating, right? Look what happened when it actually started to move down. Like once we lost the 5-day moving average, this was kind of extreme, I thought, but we never really got it back up until basically the beginning of this month. Right, we had this fake out, of course, for a couple days. Right, this was basically around the last Fed day. We had these two moves up here, and we stalled into this downtrend line. Right, so again, that's why I use the 5-period moving average a lot when we're trending like this. And once we start to break below it, it's kind of get out of the way, right, and wait for that to take place. That has helped me a lot. The 5-period moving average, okay, because it's tracks, it's fast, right, but it really kind of when we're trending like this, we stay above the price action will stay above the 5-period moving average, right. So if you are looking or worried about this market, right, as a trend trader, the one thing that you should try to do is stay with the market, until it changes direction. Now, again, you have to balance how much risk that you want to have on as it's doing this. And my feeling is to kind of be peeling off risk as we do this, and I did. If you want to see what I did today, right, and I only put on, like yesterday, I was a net seller. Right, most of everything that I did was selling yesterday, and today, kind of the same thing. I did a lot, trying to do a bit more day trading with this market right now. But I added Adobe. That's a name that was on our watch list coming into this week. Right, so this did get over this downtrend line. Right, and now I've got a level to trade against, which is 650. Again, it's a little bit tough because it's a high price stock, but it's not as extended as some of the other ones. Right, to stick with some of the, for some reason I like to stick with names on the same. Let's start with the same letter, but ASML looks pretty good too. This was a trade idea from yesterday, was up 2.2%, and I think this can go up to 855. I think we covered this in yesterday's video, but it's on its way. Another one that we talked about earlier today was Shockwave Medical. Right, it's going to have earnings, but had a real nice day today, up 6.8%. So strong action. All right, and Apple too. If you want a level to trade against for the next couple days, see if it can break 152. Right, you could say 151.75, but I always round up 152. So that's another name to watch. Right, for a break higher. All right, guys, that is it. The video is 20 minutes. I've been trying to keep these videos around 20 minutes long, but it's for lack of a better adjective, it's a very interesting market. Again, we've got some big movers. For some of the names that are underperforming, my goal is to try to participate. Sorry, in some of the names that are in downtrends, right, have been underperformers this year that are now moving up from the lows. My objective is to participate a little bit here and there, but it's really to kind of wait for some good setups, and that just requires a little bit of patience, even though the market is doing very well right now. All right, and also what helps right now is to have two different accounts. I can tone down and add to my cash balance as I've been doing in my trading account, but in the TTG trend portfolio, which has just been doing very well, that I can just stay the course, right, and just continue to not try to time things, and just play the trend as it is. All right, guys, have a great night, everybody, and see you tomorrow.